Lawmakers aim to restrict who can buy land in Texas based on what country they come from. Now there's backlash to the plan.
Human beings who have no connection to a foreign government do not represent and should not suffer for those governments.
How security concerns are driving the legislation and why some people believe it could be bad for Texans. Texas teachers could get a big raise, the plan at the Capitol for a record pay hike, and how the lawmaker behind the bill says the state can pay for the increase.
Race is such an highly emotional topic that we do need the ability to sit down and talk about these things plainly.
New legislation aims to limit what Texas college students learn about race and gender, why the bill is bringing both concern and some high-profile support.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Texas has millions of acres of farm and ranch land. State lawmakers have a new proposal to keep that land from being controlled by companies from China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. State Senator Donna Campbell introduced new legislation that would ban companies from those four countries from buying or leasing Texas farm and ranch land. Her bill deems those four countries a threat. A different bill takes that ban a step farther. It would ban individual citizens from those countries from buying any real estate in Texas, even a home. Republican supporters say it's to prevent espionage and attacks from adversaries. Democrats say it hurts immigrants who are fleeing those same threats. Ryan Chandler brings us the debate from the state capitol.
If we can't buy farmland in your country, you're not buying any here.
Texas Republicans moving to ban people from buying property if they come from certain countries. Brenham Republican Lois Kolkhorst filed legislation to cut off Texas real estate to citizens of China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. It's a move Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller says is overdue.
If they really want to assimilate and be part of the American dream, become a citizen. Until you're a citizen, no, you don't get it. You're a threat to our country. You could be a spy. We don't know.
Foreign investors own more land in Texas than any other state, about 3% of our private land. Texas already bans companies from the same four countries from connecting into our critical infrastructure like our power grid. This bill, though, goes farther, banning individuals from buying any property at all.
We're telling them you're not welcome here. You can't buy a home. You can't start a business.
Houston Democrat Gene Wu worries the law targets green card holders, asylum seekers, and other immigrants just like him.
The countries that we don't like have a lot of people fleeing from those countries who do not like those governments either. And we're now telling them, while you're waiting, which could be for years, if not decades, you can't even buy a house.
While Miller says he's pushing to take the ban nationwide and already has the support from the governor.
He'll sign the bill. I think we've got a lot of momentum this time to get it right.
We want to take a deeper dive into the controversy surrounding this bill. Capitol correspondent Ryan Chandler joins us now. The fight against this bill has really ramped up since your reporting. What's the latest?
Well, Josh, that's right. Since then, Representative Wu has led a large coalition of Democrats in the House and civil rights organizations to rally against the bill. In just the last week, he stood with local leaders in Houston alongside the NAACP, Anti-Defamation League, the Coalition of American Islamic Relations, all arguing that this bill singles out innocent immigrants just because of their nationality. He stressed the point that everybody who is trying to become an American citizen is by definition a citizen of another country, while they wait sometimes decades to take the oath of American citizenship. At another news conference later this week, he shared his own family story surrounded by fellow Democrats from both chambers.
Human beings who have no connection to a foreign government do not represent and should not suffer for those governments, especially people like my family who fled here, who sought refuge here.
Wu also said this bill would apply to even those immigrants who are legal permanent residents, meaning that they can't own a house or a business while they are actively trying to become a citizen.
All right, well, Republican State Senator Lois Kolkhorst wrote this bill. What has she said about the pushback?
That's right. Kolkhorst said that this bill is meant to address national security concerns by stopping foreign governments and some bad actors from owning land. The problem is that is just not what the bill's language does right now. It's much broader. So I reached out to her office, and the senator was not available for an interview, but she did send a statement alluding to the possibility of amending this bill in committee to narrow that focus. They said the bill will make crystal clear that the prohibitions do not apply to United States citizens and lawful permanent residents. Going on to say this has always been about common sense safeguards against Russian, North Korean, Chinese, and Iranian authoritarian regimes, not those fleeing the tyranny of those governments who seek freedom in Texas.
You interviewed Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller. He told you he thought Governor Abbott would sign this bill. Has the governor said anything about this legislation?
Commissioner Miller does believe that. Meanwhile, though, the governor's voiced support for legislation, but in a slightly different way. He defended the bill at a news conference on Wednesday, but he pushed back on the idea that the bill would affect people who are seeking citizenship.
Obviously, none of us know what the final language will look like. I do think that would be a mischaracterization of what the bill seeks to do. Listen, we had a goal when we passed the Infrastructure Act concerning these very same nations, and we have a goal here, and that's to prevent countries that are hostile to the interest of the United States from being able to buy up our farmland or other land that's so important to us. It doesn't impact it at all people who either are citizens or intend to be citizens of the United States.
You heard the governor there refer to previous legislation that was passed in 2021 that banned the state and businesses in Texas from making infrastructure deals with citizens from those same four countries, China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. That came after a Chinese billionaire bought hundreds of thousands of acres near Laughlin Air Force Base in South Texas. That resulting state law blocked those plans to build a wind farm on that land.
All right, thanks, Ryan. USDA numbers show Texas does have the largest amount of foreign-held agriculture land in the U.S. A 2020 report put the number at more than 4.5 million acres. But there are some key details to point out. In terms of percentages, that's just over 3% of Texas farmland and ranch land owned by people from other countries. That puts Texas tied with South Carolina for 16th in the U.S. for percentage of foreign-owned land. And it's still less percentage-wise than any of the states bordering Texas. In 2020, Texas had more than 287,000 acres of agricultural land sold to foreigners. Only Oklahoma had a higher total. So exactly which foreign interests own the most land in Texas? That would be our neighbor to the north, Canada. Canadian individuals or companies own 1.6 million acres, both agricultural and not. That's followed by the Dutch, Germans, Italians, and then the UK.
Race is something we have a hard time talking about.
One lawmaker launches a new push to limit what Texas students learn about race and gender, but this time the focus is on colleges, why it's raising concerns about the effect on higher education in Texas. Plus, a record raise for teachers, how a proposal at the Capitol could boost pay as the state looks for ways to keep educators in the classroom.